All right, Yankees fans, let's talk about what is happening right now with Aaron Judge, because what we are seeing this season is on another level. Judge is putting together one of those years that feels like it will be remembered for decades. The kind of season that you tell people about years later, and they almost don't believe it. We're talking about a guy who is hitting 328, blasting 51 home runs, driving 109 runs, and carrying an OPS of 1.136. That is not just good, that is video game type production. And when you start digging deeper into the numbers, it gets even more ridiculous. His on-base percentage sits at 455. To put that into perspective, nobody else in Major League Baseball is even at 400. Judge is not just barely clearing that mark. He is sitting well above it, on a hill all by himself, and the gap is massive. Shohei Ohtani is at 392, Juan Soto is at 399, and Judge is lapping them. It is absurd. So, when people start talking about whether Aaron Judge is the most valuable player, I honestly have to stop and think about why there is even a debate. Some are trying to push Cal Raleigh into the conversation, and don't get me wrong, what he has done this season is incredible in its own right. 60 home runs from a catcher who is also a switch hitter? That is historic. That is special. But when you line up his numbers next to Judge's, the difference is clear. Raleigh is hitting 248. His OPS is 959, and yes, 125 runs batted in is a huge number. But that OPS is still almost 200 points lower than Judge, and that batting average is 80 points below him. In any other season, Raleigh's stats would scream MVP, and people would rally behind him. But this is not any other season. This is the year of Aaron Judge. And we have seen this type of scenario before. Think back to the late 90s when Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire were chasing home run history. In 1998, McGwire hit 70 bombs and did not win MVP. The next year, Sosa hit 63 and still finished way down in the voting. That shows you just how complicated these awards can be when voters start looking for reasons not to pick the obvious candidate. Sometimes it is about voter fatigue. Sometimes it is about finding a different narrative. But if we're being honest, how can anyone look at what Judge is doing and not say he is the most valuable player in baseball this season? Think about intentional walks. Cal Raleigh has been walked intentionally 16 times this year, which is not a small number. But Judge? He has been walked intentionally 34 times, more than double. And yet even with pitchers refusing to pitch to him, he still has 51 home runs. That is the highest number of intentional walks we have seen since Albert Pujols in 2010. When pitchers are literally avoiding you at that rate, and you still crush more than 50 home runs, you are on another level. And if you think about how many swings Judge lost because of those walks, it is not hard to imagine him adding another 10 home runs to his season total if pitchers actually had to throw to him. And that's what makes this debate so strange. People are twisting themselves into knots to argue against Judge when the numbers are right in front of us. Judge has the batting average, the power, the on-base percentage, the slugging, and the walks. Raleigh has the home run count, yes, but in every other category Judge is far ahead. This is not to take away from what Raleigh has done. For a catcher to hit 60 home runs in a single season is incredible. But Judge is putting together one of the most complete seasons we have seen in decades. And somehow there are folks who want to overlook that because they are tired of voting for him. Look at history. Only Babe Ruth had 4 seasons of at least 50 home runs in Yankees history. That is it. Now, Judge has joined him. That is sacred territory in baseball, and Judge has done it while leading the league in OPS, leading in batting average, and being walked more than anyone else in over a decade. These are not ordinary numbers. These are the kind of stats that make you stop, shake your head, and just appreciate greatness while it is happening. And yet, there's a real chance he does not win the MVP. Imagine that. Imagine a season where a guy hits over 300, leads the league in on-base, in OPS, wins the batting title, smashes over 50 home runs, and still does not get the award. When has that ever happened? Did Barry Bonds do that and not win? Did Babe Ruth ever put up that kind of complete dominance and walk away empty-handed? The idea seems almost impossible, but here we are with Aaron Judge in 2025, and the conversation is still being forced into a debate. Meanwhile, across the league, There are only 8 players hitting over 300 this season. 8. Out of hundreds of hitters, only a handful are in that elite tier. And among those, only one is doing it while also hitting 50 home runs. Only one is doing it while carrying the highest OPS in baseball. That player is Aaron Judge. Nobody else is even close. Raleigh's batting average is nearly 80 points lower. His on-base percentage is almost 100 points lower, and yet people want to put him ahead because of the 60 home runs. Yes, 60 is a lot. It is historic, but so is what Judge is doing. The difference is Judge's season is not just about one number. It is about everything. It is the full picture. And honestly, I was stunned when I saw Raleigh's average. I had to double check. 248 is not what you expect from a player being pushed as the most valuable player in the entire league. It is a good season for a power hitter, no doubt. But MVP? When Judge is doing this, it feels like the only argument for Raleigh is that voters are tired of giving Judge the trophy. That is not a real reason. That is politics, not baseball. Now let me throw this at you, Yankees fans. Would you trade a Judge MVP for a Yankees World Series title? Because at the end of the day, as incredible as these numbers are, as much as we want to see Judge recognized, the ultimate prize is always that championship. The Yankees have not lifted the trophy since 2009. That was a long time ago. Too long. If I had to pick between Judge winning MVP and the Yankees winning it all, I think most of us know the answer. The ring matters more. But even with that said, there is no denying it. This award belongs to Aaron Judge. Whether he actually gets it or not is out of our control. But there should not even be a question. He has done everything you could ask from a superstar, everything you could ask from a leader, and more. And if somehow the voters still go in another direction, we will be looking back on this year, shaking our heads at how an all-time season was overlooked. When you look at the bigger picture, what Aaron Judge is doing right now is not just about numbers on a stat sheet. It is about impact, presence, and the way he changes the game every single time he steps to the plate. Opposing managers plan their entire pitching strategy around him. Pitchers nibble at the corners. They walk him intentionally. They try everything to avoid giving him something to drive, and yet he still finds a way to crush baseballs out of the park at a historic pace. That is the definition of a player who dictates the flow of the game. That is value. When you remove Judge from the Yankees lineup, everything changes. Without him, the offense feels flat, the intimidation factor disappears, and pitchers suddenly have room to breathe. That is why the idea of him not being the most valuable player makes so little sense. He is not only putting up legendary numbers, but he is also changing how the sport is played around him. Now let's think about the Yankees as a team. It has been a long, frustrating wait since 2009. Every season since then has carried the same heavy question. Were the Yankees going to be back on top? There have been good teams, strong rosters, moments when it felt like they were close, but the finish line has always slipped away. And yet here we are in 2025 with Aaron Judge anchoring the lineup, carrying the offense, and giving fans that feeling again. That feeling that maybe this is the year. The MVP conversation is great, but what Yankees fans really crave is another parade down the Canyon of Heroes. That hunger is what makes Judge's season even more valuable, because he is not just padding stats. He is leading by example and putting the team in position to finally break that drought. Some people might say, well, Cal Raleigh's 60 home runs are impossible to ignore. And they are right. 60 is a magical number. It jumps off the page. It makes headlines. It puts you in conversations with legends. But context matters. Raleigh is hitting 248, and yes, his OPS is strong, but the gap between him and Judge is enormous. You cannot take one stat, circle it, and ignore the rest of the game. Judge is beating him in batting average by nearly 100 points. He is crushing him in on-base percentage by almost a full 100 points. He is dominating in OPS. And when you add in the fact that Judge has been pitched around constantly, that he has faced the pressure of carrying a franchise that expects championships, it becomes clear who the real MVP is. And let's not forget the history being made here. Judge now stands next to Babe Ruth as the only Yankees to have 4 separate seasons with 50 or more home runs. Just stop for a second and think about the names we're talking about. Babe Ruth is baseball royalty, a figure so iconic that even people who have never followed the sport know his name. For Judge to carve his way into that company is not just impressive, it is monumental. It tells us that we are not just watching a great player, we are watching a legend in the making. 20 years from now, people will look back at this season and say, that was the year Judge proved he was one of the greatest ever to wear the pinstripes. But despite all that, there is still this cloud of doubt because of what voters might do. We have seen it before with players like Barry Bonds, like Mark McGwire, like Sammy Sosa. Even when they were rewriting the record books, they did not always walk away with the award. Sometimes the voters wanted a different storyline. Sometimes they wanted to reward someone new. That is what people mean when they say voter fatigue, and it feels like Judge could be a victim of that now. And honestly, it is frustrating because the award is supposed to go to the player who had the most valuable season, not the one who fits the more convenient narrative. And let me say this because it is worth repeating. Judge is not just putting up gaudy numbers in a vacuum. He is doing it in the American League East against some of the toughest pitching in baseball. He is doing it in the biggest market in the sport, under the brightest lights, with every at-bat magnified and every slump turned into a headline. The pressure of playing in New York is unlike anywhere else, and Judge is not just surviving in that environment. He is thriving in it. That is not something you can measure with stats, but it matters. It matters when you talk about who is truly valuable. And while we celebrate what Judge is doing, it also raises the question of where this all leads. Is this the season that finally pushes the Yankees back into the World Series? Because as much as fans love seeing their captain dominate, what they want most is to see him lift that trophy. Imagine the moment. Aaron Judge, standing on the field in October, holding the commissioner's trophy, proving that all of the waiting, all of the close calls, were worth it. That would mean more than any MVP award could ever mean. But the beauty of it is that he might be able to deliver both. He might win MVP and bring the Yankees back to the promised land in the same year. And think about the impact on the next generation. Young fans are watching Judge the same way kids once watched Derek Jeter, the same way others watched Ruth or Mantle. They are seeing a player who is bigger than life, someone who not only delivers on the field, but also carries himself as the face of the franchise. That influence, that inspiration, is another layer of value that makes Judge unique. He is not just hitting home runs. He is shaping the future of Yankees baseball. So when the debate comes up when people ask whether Cal Raleigh deserves MVP over Judge, I cannot help but feel like we are missing the point. Raleigh is having a season for the history books, but Judge is having a season for the ages. One is special, the other is once in a lifetime. But before we continue, please remember to join our channel and give this video a like. Your support allows us to keep bringing you the latest news about the New York Yankees. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments. In what could become one of the most talked about moments of the baseball season, whispers are swirling around Major League Baseball that veteran broadcaster Joe Buck may have stirred the pot with comments about the New York Yankees. Sources close to the situation claim that during a recent broadcast, Buck made remarks that were interpreted by fans and insiders as less than flattering toward the Bronx Bombers. While the exact words are still under debate, the fallout appears to be already in motion, with social media igniting as fans dissect every nuance. Rumors suggest that Buck's commentary wasn't just a fleeting critique, but may have crossed into territory that some consider disrespectful, especially given the Yankees' storied legacy and enormous fan base. Some insiders speculate that Buck was trying to be candid about the team's recent performances, pointing to inconsistencies on the field, questionable managerial decisions, and a roster that, according to whispers, hasn't fully lived up to expectations. Others argue that Buck, known for his straight shooting style, may have been misunderstood and that his comments were taken out of context. The response from the Yankees camp has been characteristically muted, but sources indicate that a few players were less than pleased. One anonymous player reportedly told colleagues, "Joe's got a lot to say, but we'll let the field do the talking." Meanwhile, fans on social media have exploded with speculation, memes, and even some conspiracy theories suggesting that Buck has a hidden agenda, perhaps trying to drum up ratings or stir rivalries. Sports analysts are already weighing in, debating whether Bucks commentary could influence the Yankees season or the perception of the team in the media. While some say it's all harmless chatter, others insist that a broadcaster of Bucks stature must navigate his words carefully, as millions of viewers hang on to his every analysis. The tension is palpable, and if this story gains traction, it could become one of the most intriguing off-field narratives of the season. For now, baseball fans are left in suspense, eager to see if the Bronx Bombers will respond in kind, or if this will fade into just another rumor in the ever-noisy world of sports media. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the New York Yankees, please subscribe to our channel and give us a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.